Hi, One Best Beer Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's week 14 in college football. We are doing our regular talk with Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com. We are going to get a selection of 3 games that he thinks might still have betting value here at this late point in the week, Friday afternoon. Chris Andrews, thanks for being back with us. What is the first game you'd like to discuss?
Well, hello, Peter. First game I want to discuss is Stanford against Southern Cal.
Okay.
I'm going to be on Stanford in this one. I laid
Okay.
the 4. First of all, let's talk about Southern Cal. Southern Cal's not been very good this year. They've been very inconsistent. They've had their good games. They played very well against Utah when they were a big wise guy pick. And I think part of that pick was the fact that Utah was a very overrated team. If you go after that Utah game, you look against Cal, they won by 6, which was pretty much the number. They beat Arizona by 8, not all that impressively. Beat Colorado by 3. Again, not that impressive. Lost to Oregon, actually lost pretty good to Oregon. Then last week they were very good against UCLA, beating them 40-21. But still, if you look at this team, they are not all that consistent. They've played well in spots, not so well in a great many other spots. Of course, Stanford beat them earlier in the year, 41-31, and that's when we first figured out how good Stanford was. They went on to have a very good season. Of course, they also lost to Oregon, but certainly put up a much better fight. But still, if you look back through Stanford's schedule, they beat Oregon State handily, beat Arizona, beat UCLA, beat Washington, beat Wash State. That was a close one there. Handled Colorado very easily, beat their rival Cal in a pretty good game there, and beat a very good Notre Dame team, although they struggled there as well. But I think all things considered, Stanford is just a much better, more complete team, and they have a veteran quarterback, a veteran coach. They have probably the best athlete on the field in Christian McCaffrey, a little bit better defense. I think Stanford's the right side in this one.
All right, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but Chris Andrews, you ready for me to quote a statistic that might blow your mind? You ready?
Sure, do it, Peter.
The underdog in this series, Stanford against USC, is 8-1 against the spread over the last 9, and that one cover was an OT game where the underdog lost by 8 as a 7.5-point underdog. So 8-1 ATS over the last 9 is the underdog in this, and you're picking the favorite here, Chris.
I am. Interesting, but I'm still sticking with Stanford.
All right, fair enough. What is the second game you'd like to discuss with us, Chris?
Second game is North Carolina. I got them. I took +5 against Clemson. I think Carolina is going to be able to run the ball, and I think that's going to be the key to the game. I think that if you look at up and down the line, first of all, Carolina runs the ball extremely effectively, including from the quarterback position. And Clemson, if they do have a weakness, they're not all that strong against the run. Also, look on the other side of the football. I think Clemson is probably not playing their best football right now. If you look at their last 4 games, they struggled against Syracuse. They really have not been all that sharp. They did play very well against Florida State. I do give them that. Deshaun Watson has really been carrying a lot of the load, even from the running game. And I think Gene Chizik, the defensive coordinator for North Carolina, is going to put in a few things to take away really a lot of things from Watson. And if he does continue to run the ball, which I think he will, I think Chizik's defense will punish him throughout the game. And I think this game goes to the 4th quarter. I think when you have a quarterback in the 4th quarter who's been beaten up a little bit, that may make him prone to some mistakes. I think there's excellent athletes on both sides of the football here, and I think Carolina has enough athletes themselves that they can pull their big plays, and I think they have a great chance to win the game. I'm going to take the 5 points.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. Obviously, North Carolina's been awesome ATS this year, and Clemson's been very sluggish this year. It makes me concerned, though, looking at their schedules the last 2 weeks. North Carolina's coming off of 2 tough games, right? They had the OT game at Virginia Tech. That was a huge game, right? Beamer's last home game. And then they had the high-scoring rivalry game against NC State and Clemson, Wake Forest and South Carolina. They lost ATS in those games, but it just feels like they've had kind of an easier recent schedule than North Carolina. North Carolina might be a little bit beaten up here, and Clemson will rise to the occasion. You don't see it that way?
I don't see it that way, no. I think that those are indicators that Clemson is maybe not quite on top of their game. I think they may have peaked about a month ago. Like you mentioned, they struggled against South Carolina. struggled against Syracuse. I think that's a team that maybe is not playing their best football right now, particularly on defense.
All right, fair enough. The line has taken a dip from opening. Chris Andrews, what's the third game that you'd like to discuss with us?
Well, I think I'm going against the wise guys here, but I'm
Uh-oh.
going to be on Iowa in this game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know. And you know what, Peter? I voted in a national poll, and I've consistently had Iowa very down low around the 20 mark. This last week, I even had them number 24. So 23 teams I put against them.
I mean, I'll tell you something that I know you're aware of. Iowa's defense has given up a lot of yards in recent weeks to some kind of suspect offenses, Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com.
They have given up yardage, but you know what, Peter? They also do a lot of little things that show me that they can win a lot of football games, and if not win, at least keep it close. So besides the ratings, which I do think there's probably at least 20 teams in the country better than Iowa, that's really not what our bet is this week. We're betting on who's going to cover this number. And I think Iowa does a lot of things that'll keep this game close. They do give up yardage, but you know their defense is one of the most efficient in the country. I'm looking, like 17.9 yards to produce a point against this Iowa defense, which means they do a lot of things like don't commit stupid penalties. They play well on special teams. They don't put their defense in a bad position. So, yeah, they give up yardage, but not all that many points. And as I go down the line, some of the things that I like to look at is points per possession, points per play, yards per pass attempt, yards per or total rushing yards, passer rating differential. All those things, almost everything I look at, Iowa works out a little bit better than Michigan State. Now, again, you have to extrapolate that over the weak Iowa schedule and compare it to the Michigan State schedule, which was much tougher. But I still think Iowa does enough that they will stay in this game all the way to the end. I took plus 3.5 on this game, and I know there's even some plus 4 showing up. But I think Iowa stays in this one all the way with a great chance to win it.
All right. Well, the general consensus seems to me that Michigan State's playing their best football of the year, and Iowa is overrated, not as good as their record indicates. But Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com, not buying into that. Like an Iowa plus 3.5. I heard a sharp opinion give a very good reasoning and analysis for liking the over 51 in this game. That might also be a way that some people might want to think about going. Chris Andrews, interesting call as always. Thanks so much.